What is going on, Replo community? It is your boy Sanjay coming back with another episode of Your Website Owes You Money, best title of any of the events that we do. Got our boy Matt Atala from Step Labs. How you doing, brother?
All good. Pleasure to talk to you as always.
Absolutely. Today's episode is going to be a little different than how we normally do this. Normally it's just Matt going through websites, but I will actually be participating much more in this episode. We've got two sites that we're going to take a look at, and as Matt's going to do his work, showing us how we can extract more revenue, more profit from these websites, I'm going to be asking more questions, and so I'm really excited for this. And Matt, I think we can kick off with either one of the sites that I've dropped in the chat. So you just let me know where you want to start, and we'll rock and roll.
Yeah, certainly. Cool. Well, let's start with Skeezer. I've looked at this one before. I can see they made some changes though, which is cool. I believe this is a South African brand. So I would always lead in this hero section here. I do like this announcement bar. What I would lead with though in this H1 would be more of like a value prop versus like a technical description of the name of the product. I do like the fact that we've called out 4 features in here, but I think that we could probably have like a more impactful H1, which speaks about the whole brand. And I'd also hope that if this is like the one product or the range that occupies the majority of the hero section or the entirety of the hero section, I'd hope that this is either the best selling product or the most profitable product range within the whole site and the whole store, because that's what we should be optimizing for.
Matt, I'm gonna pause you really quickly, and the reason why is it took me a second. So this is the homepage, right? It took me a second to figure out exactly what was being sold. And obviously, if you're coming from an ad or if you're coming from an email, you're going to have the context on what the brand is. But I'm curious to know what your philosophy is on kind of, I mean, obviously you've got the hero image and you can see the product. And if you scroll around, you kind of pick up quickly. You've got the V-shaped grills, the firebox, all these things like kind of listed out. But I am curious to know what your general philosophy is on homepages and how much context and how direct you are with telling people exactly what it is that you sell. Like sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's a little bit trickier. My initial thought was, oh, they sell the meat, but then obviously they've got their logo on the.
I mean, truthfully, for this one, that was my initial reaction and the main gripe I had with it the first time I saw this website. This is my second time. So this is the second session where I reviewed this one. It is a challenge though, because I do think for them, if you did just also have the image of the machinery, it probably equally wouldn't be clear what the machinery does. And I hope this is done further down this page. We want to give a lot more context. I can see that there's no real section that generally introduces the brand or the company. This is one thing that I didn't like about the company the website when I looked at it before, is that these reviews, I think before they said like 2021, 2022, if I remember correctly, but here now they're still not really like that impactful. Like excellent service doesn't truly explain like the unique value proposition of the brand or speak to the problem that has been solved through its purchase of the product. I mean, I do think there's a lot of work to be done on like explaining the positioning. Maybe even just an about us section here would be extremely beneficial for just introducing exactly what Skier is about and how they differentiate in the marketplace. But when we're talking to significantly more technical buyers, I think possibly they're selling to, this actually might be less D2C and more to like maybe like franchise, restaurant franchises, things of this nature, where they can afford to go more into the technical jargon quickly. But my general theme for D2C, if you're selling to standard like ICPs of just individuals buying for their home kitchens, would be to lean way more into the brand story and less into the technical specification of the product on the homepage. That's more PDP stuff in my view.
My number one recommendation whenever folks using Replo come to us and say, hey, like what could I do better? When I'm presented with stuff like this, it's like, hey, like instead of saying the Mendoza 903, just say what your unique value proposition is right there. And then you can go into all of your specific products or whatever your collections are. But like for most people, like the RC cooktop doesn't actually mean anything I would imagine. But like the auto rotisserie or like, hey, like never have to rotate your meat again by hand or whatever. Like there's a lot of different things that I think you can kind of say that you can still push people to these collections. But also like, give people a reason to click on that. And then another thing is like, if you unless you are sending this page to, or the traffic that you're driving to this page is like super specific, I would imagine you just want to have one CTA, right? Because like it's like hard to know what the difference is between the RC 550 and the 850, I would imagine. This is my first time seeing it. So
no, I couldn't agree more. And I think even if we are selling to a much more technical buyer, at the end of the day, when we are targeting demographics through like Meta or Google, I mean, Google would be easier, but through like Meta ads, we can't exclusively target extremely experienced customers who would know the technical specifications of each of these machines. There is going to be a wider TAM outside of the technical buyer. And I do think it's important to appeal in a sort of like utilitarian sense to the widest possible market possible if the aim is revenue. If there was like a retention component, then we may want to focus elsewhere. But I don't think this is. I think this is something you buy like once every 5 to 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I think key themes for this page are selling the story of the brand and leaning into the problem more than the technical specification of the product on the homepage. I think selling the story and doing some narrative work throughout the copy would be beneficial here. But I do really like the images. I think this one's probably the best. But yeah, those things are the things I'd work on, and I'd also improve the layout of the social proof and the exact sort of. I think this is a really good one. So someone says, after analyzing the market options, I identified the sheer barbecues as the Ferrari of barbecues. If you had that as the H1, the Ferrari of barbecues, this would probably convert substantially better. That's already more appealing to me.
And also very clearly tells you exactly what it is that you could potentially buy on the site. I think that's the thing, is like that clarity is so key. One of the things that I'd love to get your opinion on is obviously this is a much higher ticket product than, you know, your standard D2C fare of like cosmetics or supplements or whatever, right? This is several, I would imagine if we were to convert to, you know, British pounds or to US dollars, several $1,000s for this piece of kit. What's your hot take on how, you know, people should be structuring these funnels differently or these pages differently? Because it's, you know, I'm assuming the pricing actually has a material difference on how you would build these funnels out.
Yeah, this is such a good question because one of the obviously the biggest challenge in D2C is your profit margin and the management of like optimization management of your business finances. Now, I'm seeing a trend more and more of higher AOV products that are leading to extremely successful brands. You know, a lot of our clients are selling higher AOV products now, even going up to 1,000, 2,000. Our highest ticket customer, their average order value is $20,000 on our website.
Oh, wow. What category is that in? That's crazy.
They sell pergolas. So if someone's doing
what is that?
So a pergola is like as part of like a garden renovation project. It's like I suppose a type of furniture, but it's like an outside deck which allows you to like house things in. Like you'd have your sofas inside of your wider pergola. But this is like more of an infrastructure piece. What I'm noticing, right, is that, and this is something that is proving more successful, is you have to as your AOV increases, you need to humanize the experience of purchasing from you even more. You need to lean further into trust factors that people are speaking to humans. I think when you get to a specific AOV, I don't know what it is, but you need to run the numbers based on how like efficient it would be to run this, an hourly cost of servicing the calls. But if you're selling something for $20,000, your website should have a Calendly embed, and your PDP should allow people to hop on a 15-minute call to learn more about the product before purchasing. There's very few businesses for whom they would be that would be a waste of time. You know, even you can set up a routing form if you're worried about wasting your time on calls, so that you're only speaking with prospects that are more reasonable. But there is a specific point where you must move away from purely selling on the website and not offering any option to have a call prior to actually speaking with a potential sales rep or customer service agent on a call. And very few brands actually do this that are identified as D2C. So I do think it's quite a game changer if someone's choosing between you and 4 other brands and they're about to spend $5,000 and they are unclear on how to make the decision or what criteria needs to be evaluated. I think if they can have that touch point with a human, like on a Zoom call or a Google Meets call or even a phone call, your conversion is going to go through the roof.
I think it's a great point to bring up, because adding that layer of service may seem like a financial and like a energy lift, but the impact that it has on your conversion rate and like the honestly like your CPAs even, like it's very dramatic. And I do think there are some categories where the AOV may not be $20,000 or $1,000, but the product category is still so or is relatively high touch that it's worthwhile to have, another call. So for example, if you're selling wedding dresses, most brides, I would imagine, would, if they are not, going to a fitting to get to find the dress, if they're buying it online, and that happens, I'm sure they would want to have a conversation with somebody before they actually, swipe their credit card and buy one of the most important pieces of clothing that they'll ever spend. Bridesmaids dresses, suits, etc. Like, I think that's another example. But like, you can add very small, I'm sure, conversion touch points that actually have a huge impact. So I just wanted to call that out. I think it's a pretty good thing to be aware of.
It's a really good point, and I do think that more and more customers are identifying that the phase 2 of building your business, if you're an e-com, is building out your B2B line, whether that's through wholesale or retail. And I think leaning into that on your website and presenting that option for your higher ticket items is an exceptional value add for any PDP or product page or collection page that is extremely high AOV.
I'm glad that we went down that like rabbit hole a bit, because I think a lot of times those things do get missed. While we're still on the subject of barbecues, was there anything else on the Shirza site that you thought would be like worthwhile to highlight before we go on to the next site?
So on that topic, the thing that I did like about it was in the bottom right hand corner, you did have WhatsApp, and then it said speak to human. I mean, I probably changed the copy away from speak to human to something like I don't know, but speak to human seems a bit extremely biological and direct. I think the placement of that could be a lot clearer. I think I'd probably have that on an announcement bar at the top with like a picture of a customer service agent, just to humanize that experience. Likewise, I'd probably replace the contact forms with well, I could probably keep them, but I'd have like an indicator on how long it will take to receive a response. What your response rate is. Like, we respond to 100% of inquiries within 48 hours, something like this, so that I don't feel like my form is going into the void, especially if I'm writing an in-depth technical query about the barbecue. So yeah, think it's improved a lot since last time I saw it. But with those tweaks, I think conversion rate would increase even more. But yeah, if you can add a sales process to that, you might even get people who buy 3 or 4. Like, you could open a B2B line of business through that. This is actually an area I'm extremely interested in exploring further with our clients at the moment.
Can you speak more to that? I'm actually kind of curious to understand like the big. I mean, obviously you've talked about it a little bit, like level 2 of your ecom journey, but yeah, break it down for me.
So I don't know if I've spoken to you this privately, Sanjay, but I do think this is a really substantial opportunity. If we run the maths, right, a good profit margin or a standard profit margin in ecom in the D2C world is probably about 10%. If we have a business and its revenue is 5 million D2C, then and at 10%, their margin would be, let's say that their profit is 500k. Obviously, let's forget gross and net, just profit 500k. Now, what's interesting is that if you had a B2B line of that business who were doing 4 deals a year worth 500k to, like in the barbecue example, a few restaurant chains, so like one restaurant franchise, and they have 20 units and they buy 40 barbecues a year, let's say, you could have a 2 million line of business. And from that 2 million line of business, you're probably going to have a higher contribution margin. And because you can order at higher quantities, you can negotiate better deals with suppliers. You're probably expecting a profit margin about 20% better. So let's say your profit margin for your B2B line on those deals would be 30%. Well, then if we look at the profitability of the D2C line is doing 5 million revenue, giving you 500k profit. The B2B line could do 2 million in a year and do 600k profit. So you can actually make more profit of 40% of the revenue of the D2C business. And so this is something that I don't think people understand very well, but it's actually an offer that we're building out at the moment. Understanding the difference in use case when you're, or the value of landing pages and your website as a whole when you're selling to high ticket entities, and you're running a sales process in conjunction with that. I think the ecom world's not really woken up to that, and I do think that we could borrow a lot of leaves from the SaaS playbook in terms of how they book like enterprise demos and stuff.
Yeah.
But this is a must. If you're struggling with profitability, this is and you're not exploring this, please give me a call.
Yeah,
'Cause
no, big
this
facts.
this is something that I think could add a lot to your business. And yeah, I think it's done usually in an archaic way. Usually, if you have B2B line of your business, you're not really exploring that through the website. You don't have a separate website for your B2B line. Often it's just like deals done on email and cold call. There's a lot of optimization now.
And I've heard some people do some really interesting things. I have a buddy out in California, and he sells a $40 one-time purchase product. It's a safety alarm, and they activated a B2B line. So basically, they would sell through Fair. If you're familiar with Fair, they would sell through Fair to a lot of different boutiques across the United States. And what that essentially did was, he was doing about, I don't know, $16 million a year in top line, and then they activate this channel that adds about, call it $4 or so million. They take and it was very high margins, right? So there's very little input that they put in outside of just the inventory management. So off that 4 million, he's making a couple $1,000,000. He actually took that additional, call it profit, right? That additional bump, and he pumped that back into his ads for his D2C, which then in turns drives demand at the local level at the boutiques that drive. And so and then he did the same thing on Amazon as well. And so it's not just about like, okay, like you're growing this B2B site just for the sake of growing it, or, it's incremental profitability. I mean, you got to do something. Sometimes you want to do something more with that money, and you can use it as fuel to grow your D2C, making the whole thing bigger. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that people are doing. Yeah, I'm excited to see you scale out this B2B offer, man. That's gonna be great. I agree. I think a lot more businesses need it.
I mean, let's think about it this way, right? This is not really too different from the example you just cited. It's not too different from the playbook that AWS and Amazon used for a decade. Just that AWS was drove the profit and the higher contribution margin, and that was used to funnel back into Amazon's more ambitious project.
Until, Amazon, the e-com side was unprofitable for 20 years. And AWS floated that. And then now Amazon, they've grabbed so much land that it's just a profit machine. They finally churning out more profit than most countries. So it's pretty impressive.
This drives a lot of enterprise value if you're interested in selling your business. If you have these two streams of revenue, you're protected against Meta as well.
In many cases, it's probably the only way that a lot of these businesses can sell. I know. So a couple years ago, I bought a shoe company called Helm Boots. It's out of Austin, and we recently exited, but we bought it as a distressed asset. And the only reason we were able to buy it is because it had one channel. It was entirely reliant on Meta, doing $2 million in top line, making $50,000 in profit. We bought the company for $300,000. And so we just sold it for, it's crazy. But, had the wholesale existed back then, had the, being able to sell, to distributors larger, being able to do larger deals at one time, we would have probably paid. We may not have even been able to do the deal because it, wasn't as attractive as what we got it for. And then over the last couple of years, being able to activate those channels obviously allowed us to exit a lot sooner. So, it's I will tell you from lived experience, it is so critical to get, if you're running that brand and you're thinking about either exiting or just bulletproofing your business in general, definitely think about what the B2B play is. And there's almost always a B2B play in any business. There are very few companies that are impossible to build a B2B play. I think every business is possible to spin something. And if you're listening to this, whether you're watching this live or on the recording, go talk to Matt. He'll get you figured out. He'll figure out what your B2B play is.
Yeah, I'll put my Calendly link in the chat. But even aside from that, I appreciate the transparency, Sanjay, on those numbers. I think that's fascinating to hear.
Yeah,
and I do agree with your sentiment that a B2B play is possible for most businesses, and it will probably have a higher contribution margin.
Yeah.
Or a higher contribution to your overall margin. So definitely always something to consider.
Dude, big facts, man. Let's keep the gravy train going, man. So we've got another company to look at, CerebroFlex.
A lot to dig into here. So I'd say I may be wrong, but this is probably a newer business or like a product being validated. There are some things I really like about this. I think that there's a good scientific basis to this, and I can see that you're leaning into, through your imagery, the scientific element of your product, which implies obviously to the end user that's looking at your landing page that this is a product that's been more further validated or tested. And even from like the athlete on the front would imply it's like supported through athletes, good form of social proof even through your design and branding. I would never put is rated 5.0 stars by our customers because I can't click anything here, so I can't really validate it. I'd probably put what the actual rating is, or at least the number of customers that have rated you, and a link to Trustpilot or something of that nature. Again, like I'd want to be able to click through to this so that I can easily access support. Free shipping worldwide. I like this sticky drop down. This is a very unusual hero section. I wouldn't deviate too far from this. I actually like the fact this is different and creative, but the CTA here, not being like underneath the H1 and the sub headline, I don't think would convert better. I think this would probably convert substantially worse than if we had a more traditional layout, just because of familiarity for the end consumer. Like you don't like Steve. I believe the Steve Krug book. Don't make me think. I have to think here about what's going on. I like this. There's some good social proof. I like the no added hormones. It's more than a performance enhancer. It's a long-term investment in your mind. That's good as well. It's definitely not bad copy.
It's very direct response. I can tell the underlying, theme here is this is a direct response. Like the copy was like direct response focused, and I think that's pretty cool.
I think I'd adjust this copy. It's a bit, might not be, but it feels a little bit GPT, which can make end customers feel a little bit less secure when purchasing, just because they want to trust that their product's going to arrive. And I do like the unlock greatness. That's very direct response. Some of these AI images are hilarious as well. I like them. I like the scientific explanations. You're adjusting your copy for a more technical audience as well. I think you've balanced that quite well. But I think the overall layout needs work. I think the UX needs work. I think we're using illustrations that are probably a bit too dated and would make me feel a bit insecure purchasing this. But I do like the historical and technical components that you're adding there. This is the kind of stuff that I do find interesting. It's obviously a new approach and shows that you've really researched the product, and these are all of the things that this implies to me. This is a very extremely direct response way of structuring this. It's not bad at all. I like the way you've positioned the value prop. 110% money back guarantee. I haven't seen that one for a while. But yeah, I think just analyzing the layout.
4-Hour Workweek playbook right there. I don't know if you've read 4-Hour Workweek anytime recently, but that's he talks about the 110%, 130%. I think he even goes with like 130% guarantee. It works really well.
I'd probably have so I've scrolled down probably like 12 sections to get to this point, and this is probably the most interesting section for me. So the fact that this is actually created by someone who's got 20 years plus experience in the field and who was an Olympic sprinter, in my mind, this should be highlighted in the hero section. This should also be detailed in the section below. I'm a massive fan of this explanation. I think this is great copy. I think this is a more simple layout, but this speaks volumes to the efficacy and social proof behind the product. I like this as well. And I like the FAQ section. I think there's a contrast ratio issue here. And I feel a little bit eerie about the image here. It's a little bit scary with the conjoined arms. But I think there's some good stuff here. And I just play around with the first 8 sections and the layouts. I think probably a little bit too much going on. I think with some simplicity and leaning more on the social proofs and the credibility behind the thesis of the overall product, I think conversion would lift.
This is a great use case for a couple of Replo templates, specifically the Athletic Greens template and the Club Early Bird template for these long form offer pages. Those are really dialed in for supplements. I'll share a website with you, Matt, that was built entirely in Replo, or actually that's not the right URL, it's gruns.co. If you open that up, you should see this brand. And I think Cerebro Flex could kind of model off of Gruns, and I think they would have a much better experience converting customers than what they're doing right now. But it's like, it's a great use case for Replo here.
Yeah, I love this. This is done really well. Super simple. Really enjoy this. More traditional structured section. I think this is a really good product image. I love the style of the drop shadow like this. I built a website recently for a client, and I was so annoyed when they got rid of the hover effect being this. It's one of my favorite styles at the moment. Like the product imagery here again. Just really good layout, super solid UX. I love the accordions here when I click in. Big fan of those. And I just think some of the imagery here is absolutely, these creators are exceptional. I can't complain.
Yeah,
I think this
Chad
is great.
Janis is the operator here, and Chad really understands like the line between like brand and like the direct response stuff. He plays it so nicely, because I think there's like sometimes they're competing priorities, but and again, like going back to CerebroFlex, like this is an example that I can't share the specific numbers, but I can tell you this particular page cranks. Like most of his traffic goes to this page, and it converts really well. And he spent a long time like optimizing this. Like being able to model your landing page off of something like this is going to get you to the answer, which is, scale, much faster than I think like continuing to try, some of the stuff that you may have been trying already. You can rearrange a lot of the content, like the CerebroFlex content. Like they've got a comparison chart. It's not terribly hard to like, restructure it. They've gotten an example of like what the brand is. They've got testimonials. So I think it's like, it's not far. It's not a ton of work to go from what CerebroFlex looks like now to something a little bit more like this. And it doesn't have to be exactly like this.
Yeah. No, I think this is an exceptional case study for Replo. I love this as well. Like order in the next 4 hours, receive April. This is such good UI. Really enjoy this. Good at use of interaction design here as well. Big fan. And I think this shows the use case of Replo. This is back when you needed a custom developer to build something like this. This would have been extremely troublesome. But even with just probably like a few days playing around with Replo, you could build something like this, especially maybe even quicker using the templates, maybe a few hours.
Yeah, templates. And then if you really don't want to do any of the work yourself, hire a Replo expert. Hire you, Matt. Like I just send you some money and you do it for me. Because I'm a busy man. I've got a lot going on. I'm trying to hire some people, man. All right, man. So we've gone through the two main sites that people submitted for this particular event. We've been able to go through a little bit more, do some rabbit holes. Before we close out, I've got to ask right now, and basically since call it mid-February, people spending money on ads on Meta, on Facebook, Instagram, have been struggling to scale. Like it's been, to be very blunt about it, it's been a shit show. Some people have been okay. Most people have been kind of screwed, to put it very lightly. What are you recommending to your clients on what to do, or what kind of work are you doing for your clients to help them kind of get through this rut? So like obviously conversion rate optimization is like, it's whatever traffic you are getting to the site, you're able to make more money from that traffic. That's step one. But like, what else are you recommending to folks, or what specifically are you recommending in CRO?
Yeah, so I think in times like this, you're completely right that the best thing you can do for your funnel is optimize the conversion of your pages. It's the best way that you can take control in a market where you have a lot of things that you can't really control for. Like you can't control for Meta and their allocation, the allocation of budget towards specific tests they're running on demographics, and whether you get caught in a variation A split test, you're in trouble. That doesn't end up being the winner. So there's a lot going on there at the moment. And I think the two things that we've discussed today that I'll reiterate is, well, the first we've discussed today is setting up the B2B line in your business. I think this protects you long-term whilst also remaining in the e-com field. You don't need to change the thing about your business. It's really just creating a new offer and going through like a targeted like brand discovery session, working out your ICP and how you're going to get more interest from them. So that would be one. The second is split testing. I think you need to be split testing your offer. You need to be making the most of every visitor that comes to your website. I'd have just control and variation A page basically tested on a bi-weekly cadence using something like IntelliGem, super easy to set up, or even Replo's A/B testing tool. And yeah, I think that's one of the highest leverage plays you can pull at the moment. Price testing is more difficult to do, but it's something that moves the needle massively. I guess following on from that, I just look to be as efficient as possible. Go through your historical data, study it. When were you performing well? What were you doing? What are you not doing now that you were doing then? Is it possible to reallocate budget towards more creative sources for marketing, Snapchat ads, Pinterest? I know those are applicable for your specific vertical, but possibly. So I think just being really efficient and high leverage in the split tests you're running. Don't run split tests based on like the color of a button, but run them on like offer, price, and high leverage things you can control, and ideally tie them to an event. Build a marketing calendar with all of the key events in your industry across the 365-day window, and start planning out your offers for Father's Day, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, Black Friday. You can get one in every 2 weeks. And from that perspective, you'll be able to exert a lot more control over your marketing performance.
Significantly. That was a banger answer, dude. That's exactly what I was looking for. Playing with your offer. We're going to have to do a separate event one day where we just talk about offers. And we go deep on offer construction and optimization, because there's a lot there. I mean, I've heard everything from like, there was a fresh dog food company that if you got their like weekly subscription to their fresh dog food, you would also get 3 months of pet insurance. And then they would send that lead, if you opted into that, they would send it to a pet insurance company for like a cost per lead, like, kickback. And that from a dollar basis reduced their CPA. But because you're getting dog food plus pet insurance, that also improved the perceived value of the offer, which effectively lowered your CPA. This person was making $8 on the acquisition before the actual revenue and profit from the actual dog food, with all of the different things that he was able to stack. And he went from zero to $1 million a month in 12 months. And they were able to exit the business in 14 months. So, I mean, offer optimization can be something as simple as like packaging your offer a little differently for each of the holidays, like Matt said, like Father's Day, Mother's Day, if you're in America, 4th of July, Black Friday, there's so much stuff. No matter what geo you sell to, there's always something going on. You can build that entire calendar. But it also, offer optimization goes like all the way to like partnering up with people, creating these like, interesting deal structures that allow you to effectively lower your CPA on a dollar basis, maybe even profit on the acquisition before you even get your like actual product dollars in, or just improve the perceived value of your offers. There's a lot of cool stuff there, and we'll have a full conversation about that. But that is the exact answer I hope you dropped, because I don't think we talk about offer optimization enough. So we'll have to do another event. But Matt, as always, brother, thank you so much for your time today. This is fun. I'm glad we got to like go do some like quick hitter stuff. Do you have anything that you want to leave the people with before we sign off? One last thought or call to action?
80% of business is stress tolerance. And even if Meta's causing you a lot of stress at the moment, you need to push through and use it as an opportunity to make your business more anti-fragile and robust.
Oh, man. I'm putting that on a hat, dude. That was bars. That was fantastic. All right. Well, Matt, thank you again, brother. That was fantastic. This is a great episode of Your Website Owes You Money. And I hope for everyone watching on the live recording and on the clips that we make from this, that you go and get the money that is owed to you. All right. We'll see you on the next one. Y'all take care.
100%. Thank you, Sanjay.